people. I hope you guys are having a great day. I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World and the Black Business School. And I am here with my very good friend, Ms. Danielle Pierce from economicelevation.com. And today we got some interesting stuff to talk about. But before I begin the conversation, I'd like to ask Danielle, how you doing today?
I'm doing phenomenal, Dr. Boyce. What's going on with you today?
Oh, not much, not much. I am, I just took a nap, and I always take an afternoon nap every day. Did I ever tell you that I'm a napper?
No, you didn't. I used to do that in college. I haven't been able to do it since then, though. I kind of miss those days of taking a nap every day.
Yeah, naps are the truth. Like anybody who's watching right now, I'm just telling you guys, like if you really want to have a better life, incorporate naps in your life, and you'll naps generate instant happiness. It makes you like what you're doing. Don't go through life when you're not well rested. Like that's really important. So that's one of the secrets I picked up on is it ain't about having like a bunch of money or anything like that. It's about taking appropriate naps. So anyway, okay. So everybody who's watching, I want to say welcome to drboycetv.com, the home for intelligent Black people. So if you're not Black and intelligent, or if you're not intelligent at least, then you might want to leave because this conversation is not for you. This is for smart people. We might talk about everything everybody else is talking about, but we always elevate the discussion. And I want to say hi to Inspired One, Rodney, Tanya, John Doe, Dominique, Tromaine, Steve Williams, Twiggy, Monique, and everybody else. And let's do, before we get started, before we get into the conversation, I don't know if you know, Danielle, one thing we always do is we start the conversation with the city shout out. So everybody, when we get started, I want you to shout out your city, your business, and your dream. Everybody shout out your city, your business, or your dream. So Catherine, how you doing? Zoe Dent from Covington, Georgia. Catherine's from Trenton, New Jersey. So Catherine is part of the tribe, so she knows the routine, she knows the drill. Chanel, I take a nap on Sunday and try to get one on Saturday. Good for you. What's up, Willie Clarence from Memphis, Arkansas? I did not know about Memphis. I know Memphis, Tennessee. I know Memphis. Is it Memphis near Little Rock or something? Anyway, all right. So let's see. David from Buffalo, Jillia from Phoenix, Monique from Glendora, California, Dante from Detroit. I see Pink Love says, "Hey Dot, what's going on?" I see Johannesburg. Is that Johannesburg? Your CPA Simba is a CPA in Johannesburg. How about that?
Wow.
How about that for
That's what's up.
technology? All the way to Johannesburg. I see Thailand from Milwaukee, mysmilingpups.com. That sounds like, white people love their animals. I know Black people love animals. If you're an animal lover, it's okay. I'm not hating on you. So tell me if you're an animal lover. I think that's cool. That makes you better than me. But white people really love their dogs. I don't know if that sounds racist for me to say that, but they do. They really like, they put little shoes on the dogs and little doggy coats and little doggy. Do you have a dog, Danielle?
Oh no, I don't like dogs. I'm one of those white people that I don't understand the attraction. That's just not my thing.
You ain't right. You're a terrible person, Danielle. Terrible. Just terrible. Let's see. Pearl from Memphis, Miss Wiggy from London, the UK. Okay, Adele from London. Man, we got a lot of Londoners in here. I love that. I love Black London. Black London is an amazing place, by the way. Danielle, you got to go to London. Let's see. I see the Bronx. I see Ashland, Kentucky, Bronx, New York. Carolyn says she's a dog lover, and Carolyn, we love you too. So we're not at all making fun of dog lovers at all, because the dogs are cool. Zoe loves her huge dogs. See, there's a lot. And Michelle's an animal lover. See, I'm feeling kind of bad right now for even saying that. Valerie, how you doing from Atlanta? Guns. Black people love their cats. Okay, well, cats seem a little cleaner. I'm not sure. I don't know, but maybe that's it. All right. So hit the thumbs up button as we get started. Please hit that thumbs up button. Everybody, please hit the thumbs up button. If you're on Facebook, please hit the share button. Missy Cook and Walter Suggs and Valicia, how are you? And Maya Johnson, good to see you as well. All right, so everybody hit the thumbs up button and please share. If you're on Facebook, please share the video. Don't forget Dr. Boyce TV is on iTunes, so you can also download the podcast on iTunes if you want to follow it there as well. So today, Danielle runs a platform called economicelevation.com, and she teaches financial literacy, real estate, tax, and investing, all kinds of stuff, and so she knows all about money. And also, Danielle is a grown-ass woman, and as a grown-ass woman, she knows about life. And one of the things that, Danielle, I'd like to ask you about this is that, when I think about the Wendy Williams divorce, right? And I'm looking at what's going on with Wendy, and we're not here to gossip about it. We're not here to wish them ill. We're here to really talk about the real life stuff that affects all of us when it comes to money and relationships. Can you give like a summary if somebody were to ask you, how does money influence relationships and how do relationships influence money? What might come to mind for you?
I would just say that, money just makes you more of what you already are. Everybody thinks that, especially in the Black community, we always think about more money, more money, more money. Like if I just get to X amount of dollars per year, I'll be straight. If I get to X amount of dollars per year, I'll be fine. But what happens is we get to that point and then we still have the same issues that we currently have. Because again, money just makes you more of the same type of person that you already are. So if you like messing around with, different chicks, or you like to, trick off money and you're gambling, or you just whatever your thing is, your vice is, you just amplify that. And in terms of relationships, I think that money issues reveal all the cracks in your relationship. I think that if you're in your intimate relationships, I think if there's money problems, that all the things that you're trying to that are underneath the surface, I think they come out, especially when money starts being short. Then you really find out, say when things hit the fan, or when you have to start dividing money. That's when you find out who somebody really is.
Wow. So money reveals the cracks in the relationship. That's really interesting. Because I'm almost thinking, not that I disagree with you at all, because I think you're right. That first part I instantly connected with, and I think it relates to the Wendy Williams stuff, maybe, who knows, but we don't know the details of Wendy's situation. We just know she's getting a divorce. There's worth $60 million. She makes $15 million a year. There's complications there, but that part about money making you more of what you already are, I agree with that, entirely, in the sense that I remember my grandmother telling me that before she died. My grandmother never made a lot of money. She didn't get a lot of financial education, but her money was always tight. Her money was always right. She paid off her car, paid off her house, perfect credit, zero balance on the credit cards, all of that stuff.
Wow.
And one of the things that she told me a long time ago is that money is about your mindset. She said money makes you more of what you are. If you're a spender before you get money, you'll just become a bigger spender if you get more money. And so that part makes sense. Now, the part about money revealing cracks in your relationship, and maybe this allows us to transition into what we might, not that we're going to speculate on Wendy, because again, we don't know Wendy Williams and her husband in that way. But do you think that if you look at this divorce, right, and you're talking about $60 million fortune being divided, I was actually surprised that it was so low. I honestly thought, with her making $15 million a year, I thought it might be more like $100 million by now, because she's been in it for a while. But do you think that the fact that they have so much money will make it harder, or do you think it's going to make the divorce more complicated, or you think it's going to simplify the divorce? What do you think?
I think that they have, obviously a lot of money by most standards. I think that in their case, it's probably going to make it more complicated. I think it only makes it easy when you start talking about people like Jeff Bezos' money, right? When you talk about billions of dollars, then when you try to divide up billions of dollars, you're like, okay, I'm either going to be rich or super rich or ultra, ultra rich. So that's a different scenario. But I think with 60 million net worth, and I think that with all the things that her husband is accused of doing in their past, and like just the rumors and the media and the side chicks and the babies, I think that's probably going to be a hellacious situation, if I had to guess.
Well, what's fascinating to me, here's the thing. Okay, so you and I talked about this before the fact, that the Wendy Williams divorce is interesting because Wendy lives in New York, which is a fault state. In case you guys don't know, fault state means that who's at fault for the divorce, who gets the blame for the divorce, plays a part in who gets the most money or how the assets are divided. But despite the fact that she lives in a fault state, as opposed to California, which is no fault means it's cut down the middle, no matter who did what to who. Because she's in a fault state, you would expect that would work to her advantage. But from what we've been reading, she actually went ahead and, I guess, waived her right to fault, or just basically said she wants a no fault divorce. So no fault means, Wendy's basically said, at least according to Forbes magazine, that it doesn't matter who did what. Like, let's just get this over with. Let's just, nobody's at fault. What's your interpretation of that, Danielle?
I think that they've been together a long time. I think that he has a lot of dirt on her and she doesn't want it to come out. And it obviously has to be something like epic, because all the other shit that's already came out, you would think that that's pretty bad. But I think that he knows, at least on the outside looking in, again, I don't know them. On the outside looking in, I think that he knows a lot more, and that he has the ability to, for all intents and purposes, ruin her, maybe. And so she's trying to avoid that scenario, if I had to put money on it.
Well, everybody who just came in, please hit the thumbs up button. And I want to let you guys know what we're talking about. I'm speaking with Miss Danielle Pierce from economicelevation.com. And we're talking about Wendy Williams and her divorce from her husband, Kevin Hunter. They've been married a long time. I want to say it's 25, 30 years or something. Do you know how many years it's been by chance?
I thought I read 22. but yeah.
22 years. Yeah, there you go. 22 years. And this is sort of right in the middle of this big scandal of infidelity and cheating that's really interesting on the part of Kevin. And people feel that this is the driving force behind the divorce. I got some thoughts on that too. I'll share that in a minute, but I won't go into it now. So one thing that's really interesting, Danielle, if you just talk about it from a big picture standpoint, because again, the goal is not to gossip about Wendy and to say, oh yeah, no, he did this and she did that, and
Right.
we're not doing it. We don't live like that. But I think that life is a natural laboratory for learning. Like you can learn from other people's experiences. And one thing I can say for sure is, I think that there's a lot of people that are nervous. I think both parties are probably pretty nervous about how things are going to go down. I'm guessing that the fact that she wants no fault is basically her way of saying, let's just get it over with. Nothing to see here. Get the documents signed, non-disclosure agreements. I think that's a smart move. I think it's smart because what she's probably thinking is, look, I'll give this man a few $1 million, give him a big palimony check.
She'll rebuild.
Yeah, and then I'll just move on. He moves his way. We sign the confidentiality agreements. It's all clean. Whereas if she decided to just fight him out in public, it could become really messy and cost her a whole lot more than what she would have to pay him. That's what I'm kind of seeing. Like, and it's fascinating. It's interesting, like that thin line between a natural negotiation versus what could be defined as blackmail. Right. Like, what I think about, did you see that whole thing with, what's his name? The guy, the lawyer, the lawyer that represented R. Kelly's victims, Avenatti, and what he did with Nike, the way he went to Nike, and he made the same argument with Nike that a lot of married people make with each other. He basically said, look, I got shit on you. I could take you down. I could drop your stock, the value of your stock tomorrow by $10 billion, but I'm going to give you a way out. Write me a check for $25 million for consulting services, air quotes, right? Yeah. And I'll make it all go away. Nike called the feds on his ass. Like, he got popped, and he got 30 charges on him now. And so I think that's really, isn't that interesting though? What do you think? Like, what do you think is the dividing line between what Avenatti did, which is clearly illegal, right? It's blackmail, extortion, all that, versus somebody saying to their spouse, like, look, we can do this the easy way. We can do this the hard way. We do it the hard way. It's going to cost you a whole lot more. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that story about Nike, but I think it's the same thing. I think that I think it's a similar situation. You know what I mean? Like, you pay me and I keep it moving. I keep living my life. You do me. You do you, and I do me. I think that's what he's saying.
I agree too. I think it's almost like with marriage, I think a lot of people don't really understand, exactly what marriage kind of is, right? Like marriage it's not just, like we love each other, we're going to be together forever. But there's a reason why you sign a contract. The reason, it's really, marriage is really, what do you think? Do you think marriage is more about love, like the formal process of marriage? You think it's more about love typically, or do you think it's really like more of a business arrangement? Because it seems if it's about love, I could just be like, hey, I love you. I'm committed to you. You're committed to me. Let's be together. Let's go together.
So check this out. I've been married, recently divorced. And 10 years ago, I would have said that marriage is about love. I'd have been one of those girls on social media talking about how, it's about love. It's not about money. Y'all some gold diggers. This is not how we're supposed to do. But now, knowing what I know now, 12 years, 11, 12 years of marriage later, 3 kids later, it's absolutely a business. And the problem is that 95% of the population, we don't approach it that way. We don't talk about the things we need to talk about before we get married, because that's considered not sexy, or it's not comfortable, or it's taboo. Like, for example, people get married, they don't know nothing about who's going to pay what bills, what religion we going to be, how the kids going to be raised. Do you save money? Do you spend money? Are you an investor? We don't talk about none of that. Like 99% of couples never talk about that. So it's no wonder why the divorce rate isn't higher than what it is, to be honest. Like, I feel like it should be higher. And I think the other people who are still married, not everybody, but some of them, they're still married because it's complicated to separate. And plus, it's easier when you're comfortable to stay together, to be quite honest, especially when it's been so many years, you just stay there and you just work it out. Let's stick together and work it out. But what are we doing?
Interesting. So it's like, it is kind of interesting where, when people ask me what I think about marriage, should you do it or should you not do it? And they bring up legitimate, issues that they have with the whole system and how it works. I don't tell people yes or no. I mean, because it's, you don't know anybody's individual situation. I just say be very careful and really do your homework on exactly what marriage looks like, all the implications are. And it reminds me, I'm a fan of Game of Thrones. You watch anybody else watch Game of Thrones by chance? You watch Game of Thrones? Danielle?
Not you too, Dr. Boyce. Everybody going crazy. I watched like one episode of it the first season because I was on a plane and they were showing it. And so I just happened to see it, but it didn't strike me as like the best thing ever. I was just like, okay, all right. I mean, maybe I'll try it again, but I don't know. The way everybody acted, maybe I don't need to watch it. Shit.
Yeah, Game of Thrones. Maybe it's like like Power with white people, or something. Like in a way, except it's got a different kind of feel, and they spend a lot more money on it. Like they spend insane amounts of money per episode. But anyway, Game of Thrones, it's all about people fighting over power. Basically, that's what it is. And there was this part where one guy was advising a young queen, and he just basically said, imagine every ally as your enemy, and imagine every enemy as your ally, and just make sure you play out every possible scenario so you know what you're walking into. And I think marriage is a lot like that too, and it's hard to do because love is so, the emotions of love are so overwhelming, that we marry somebody, we love somebody, we can't even imagine not that person not being in our life. We can't imagine it going bad, right? And then it goes bad. Well, say it again.
No, I was gonna say, what else happens too? It's hard to get a clear picture about marriage because nobody talks about marriage in a way that makes sense. That we only hear about, especially if you're a woman, it's like, oh my God, this is gonna be the best day of your life, and how you gonna do your hair, and how your dress gonna be, and where you gonna have the wedding at. Nobody talks about it in the way that we're talking about it now until like after the fact. And then you realize like, well, why didn't nobody tell me this like years ago or before I got married? Nobody does that. So it's hard to get a clear picture.
Yeah, I think that's a good point too. I think that we are not doing anybody a favor when we let them live on a fantasy. Like when people are allowed, when people get to a point where they just idealize everything to oblivion and believe everything's a fairy tale, I don't think you're helping anybody, because when you give somebody the expectation of a fairy tale and then it's not a fairy tale, it just shatters their whole worldview, and I think people overreact. I think the reason the marriages don't last now the way they used to last, like your grandma, your great grandma, your great grandfather, they were married 85 years, and y'all really might have grew up thinking that was a beautiful 85 years. Probably not beautiful. That was not beautiful. That was some mommy ass like.
Let me tell you, Dr. Boyce.
And even if I have to kill you,
let me tell you,
married to your dead body. That was like some heavy shit, and we don't know that. We don't know that because a lot of. I mean, you have a community where 76% of us don't have the dad in the house. It makes it hard to, it's hard to know what that day to day looks like, And I felt lucky. I thank my parents on their 45th wedding anniversary, or 44th, because their 45th is this year. I thanked them. I said, thank you for giving me something that I didn't realize how rare that was until I got older. That stability of just knowing that y'all just gonna be together, ain't no question. I only saw them argue once in 40 years. And I saw them constantly doing a give and take, like a tango, like, okay, I'm gonna let you have what you want this time. I'm gonna back down that time. I'm gonna submit to you, you submit to me. You know what I mean? Like I saw them do that, and a lot of people don't see that. They get in this and they go into their marriage like, oh, well, if she gonna tell you to do whatever, blah, 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 then you need to tell her that, set your woman straight, or girl, don't you let him talk to you like that. He talk to you like that, he blah, blah, and people come in with all of that crazy attitude. And that, I mean, if you come in with attitude, I don't even know how you expect anything to last, because marriage is so delicate that the way you deal with a delicate thing, you must be delicate to deal with a delicate thing. But if you come in with a very hard, stubborn, like uncompromising attitude, like with all these expectations and demands, I just think you should probably just not do it. Just save your time.
Yeah, going back to the grandparents thing, let me tell you. So of course I grew up, didn't know, it's always a lot of shit going on that you don't hear about, that you don't realize when you're a child. So I get a little bit older, I get into high school, start talking to my grandmother more. So my grandmother had 9 kids. They're 3 maybes. So they're 3 kids that we absolutely know for sure do not belong to my grandfather because they look nothing like him, right? And it's like, how there's always this open secrets in Black families that everybody knows, but nobody ever says anything about. So it's been that way my whole life. I'm 39 years old now. And guess what? We still don't know. And if you ask my grandmother today, she will still cuss you out to this day. My grandma's in her 80s, and she'll say, the man who raised you is your father, and that ain't none of your damn business. And that's what she says. So that is how, and she stayed married to my grandfather for a very, very long time. They had a house, they raised the kids together until he died of cancer. But yeah, 3 of those kids, they don't belong to him. They do not.
Wow. Well, yeah, and I think that's interesting. I commend your grandfather, for the fact that whatever it was, I don't know, maybe it was love, maybe it was something else, but whatever it was that led him to love through all of that. I'm a little weird. I'm a little backward. A lot of people are like, oh, if so and so cheats on you, like, you gotta leave, you gotta end the relationship. But I've always been like, well, why would you destroy your whole family and everybody's emotional security because somebody, engaged in unauthorized use of their sex organs? Like, I'm not saying you're dumb if that's how you feel. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that, that when I really started thinking to myself, like, what love really is, I was like, I think if I really loved a woman, I hope that doesn't happen. Like, I hope I get married and she doesn't cheat on me. But if she did, I have to admit, I don't think I would leave unless I had a bunch of other reasons to leave. I wouldn't leave just for that reason. Because really, people were having sex with somebody else before they met you. If you break up, they're gonna have sex with somebody else after that, and then there's usually a lot of stuff happening in people's lives that you don't know nothing about, and like, we live in this world where you're supposed to see one person and only see that person for X number of years. I don't even know if that's consistent with reality. I don't know. What do you think? Am I just giving up on humanity with that? Like,
you do sound a little bit bitter, but I will say that it's I don't think it's consistent with reality. And again, years ago, I would have said that, if you cheat, you should leave the relationship, and that's cheating. Being faithful is one of the most important things. But today, I have a different view. I don't think that that's like the most important thing. I think that there's other things that are more important than that. I ain't saying I want to be dogged out. That's not what I'm saying. But I am saying that, consistency, a man's ability to execute how he provides, those things, are pretty important. You know what I mean? And so, but again, that's me talking now. 10, 15 years ago, I would have had a different viewpoint.
Well, everybody, I'm speaking with Ms. Danielle Pierce from economicelevation.com. And we are talking about a lot of things, actually. But the jump off point in the conversation is the divorce between Wendy Williams and her husband, Kevin Hunter. They're getting divorced after 22 years. They're splitting a fortune of about $60 million. According to Forbes, they're making this money from books, endorsements, and hosting the Wendy Williams show. Wendy brings in about $15 million per year, and it's going to be interesting. Now here's an interesting little tidbit. A little factoid. Some of you guys that really have been following me kind of know this, but I didn't bring it up. I don't talk about it much, but I actually had a chance to get to know Wendy a little bit. I was on the Wendy Williams show, the radio show, about 6 times, and the radio show was great. I remember being scared to death the first time I met her on the radio because Nicole, who used to be her right-hand person, calls and they wanted me on to talk about something. It was something with Oprah and 50 Cent. And their whole perspective was, they were like, oh, well, you're talking about this from a different perspective. We're used to people just, chatting about it. But, to hear a professor kind of analyze it and break it down was really interesting to Wendy. And I didn't know this, but Wendy actually has a lot of respect for professors. I don't know if her, father was a professor or whatever, but there was something about the show where I came in really nervous. I came in like, oh man, what is it going to be like? I hear the show was a shit show. Charlemagne the God was still there. I didn't know anything about Charlemagne at the time, but I really connected with him. And I got there and I asked Nicole, I said, so how long am I going to be on the show? And she said, well, at least 20 minutes, and you'll be on for 40 minutes if Wendy likes you. So I'm going in here, bowing to the queen, like, I hope you like me, and I'm nervous as hell. Like, first interview, one of my first interviews, and I'm nervous as shit. But I go in there and I just do my thing. And apparently she must have liked me because she kept me on for 40 minutes and they kept inviting me back. And I can say this. Here's one thing I will say about Wendy Williams, and I'll say it to the day I die. She is arguably the best interviewer I have ever worked with, the best interviewer ever. And I have done hundreds and hundreds of interviews. She is the best. I remember feeling like she let me get my points across. She kept the interview moving. I didn't have to go promote my book. She promoted it for me, so I didn't have to worry about all of that. Because with a lot of interviewers, they're so bad, you got to sneak in and mention your book because they'll forget. Like I remember going on things like the Tom Jordan Morning Show. No disrespect to Tom, but I remember feeling very uncomfortable. Like I was being forced around, and that it was just awkward. But Wendy was super professional. She is damn good at radio. Like in fact, I wish she had stayed in radio. I didn't feel like TV was her element. Right before Wendy went to TV, I went on her show for that last time. And we had a lot of time to talk during the commercial breaks. And I remember her talking about, like she's like, yeah, I'm going to go to TV and it's a big move and I don't know how it's going to work out. And I remember thinking at that time, like, I think this is a mistake. I said, are you sure that this is the right move? And I was wrong. She's done really, really well at TV. And Charlemagne, now the interesting thing too about that was Charlemagne was working with her. And when Wendy left, it looked like the whole team kind of got dropped. Like everybody there just, the network must have just said, y'all just get the hell out. You ain't got to go home, but right. You got to get the hell out of here. And so Charlemagne went down to South Carolina. And this is actually peak game. I want everybody who has a goal, who has a big dream to do something big, pay attention to this. This is so important. So Charlemagne loses his job. He has the biggest job in New York. Their show was #1, one of the top shows in the country. All of a sudden that's gone. So Charlemagne, next thing I know, Charlemagne is in South Carolina. And he's doing this public access radio show that nobody is listening to. Like he had 2 listeners and a cow listening to his show. Like it was that bad. And he would call every week. He'd call me one week and be like, hey, Dr. Boyce, you want to come on my show? I'd be like, sure, man, no problem. I didn't want to do it. I was like, God, I don't have time. I don't want to be on this. He's going to have me on here for an hour. But I remembered that when I met Charlemagne on the Wendy Williams show, he's an honorable guy because he said, I had my book. It was called What If George Bush Were a Black Man? And he said, I'm going to read your book. And I was like, okay, yeah, sure. That sounds good. I didn't believe him. Celebrities lie all the time. They always tell you, oh, I'll call you. And then they never do. So I'm like, yeah, okay, great. Awesome. Here's a copy. I'll sign it for you. Do you know, next time I came back, he had read that book. He had read that damn book. I said, oh, he read it. Wow, that's cool. And so so when he was in South Carolina and he was kind of struggling along with this crappy little radio show, he kept doing it, not because of the money, because there was no money, not because of the audience, because there was no audience. He did it because that was his craft, that was his dream, and that's what he loved, and that's what he was committed to. He was married to radio. So I did the show and I did it because I was like, well, if I was down and out, I'd want somebody to not forget me too. So I'm going to go ahead and do the show. And then a week later, my brother's like, yeah, Charlemagne's on the phone. He wants you to do his show again. I'm like, damn, he just called me last week. And it was like but I did it again. And then so years later, right? A few years later, Charlemagne suddenly is like larger than life, right? He's on the Breakfast Club. He's just killing it. He's permeating like all of entertainment, right? And I'm sitting there thinking, thank God I was nice to him when he was struggling. And so I think 2 important lessons for everybody to learn is that number 1, be nice to everybody. Always be respectful, always be supportive, be helpful, because you don't know who you're dealing with, who you're talking to. Number 2, pay attention to the fact that he stuck with what he was doing. So many people, Danielle, maybe you can speak to this. I've seen so many people who have a gift, who have a talent, who never succeed because the minute it gets hard or if they don't get what they want fast enough, they just walk away from it. And the people that become great tend to be the ones who are just doing it no matter what. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. I think it comes down to being consistent, and it comes down to laser focus. Like we have this really bad in the community, especially in the Black community, where, especially on the south side of Chicago where I'm from, it's like you'll see a grocery store and inside that store, there may be a car wash attached to it. There may be a beauty salon attached to it. You can get your hair cut there and they sell chicken wings. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but you'll see a lot of things in one spot. And we always feel like we have to do more to get more money. But honestly, doing that one thing and focusing on that, focusing all your attention on that one thing is what gets you successful, is what gets you paid. If we could even take the conversation to Tiger Woods. Look at how Tiger Woods was dogged and trashed and dog walked and you know what I'm saying, like cast out and cast aside for years. 99.9% of us will never recover from that. Our stories would have ended with being internet memes, being the butt of comedian jokes, and just, being made fun of on social media. He did a complete 180, right? Something that nobody literally ever saw coming, and he pulled it off. So it goes back to the same thing you were talking about with Charlemagne. Like you have to focus and you have to really grind on one thing and stop trying to, do 10 different things where you're giving 10% of your effort into 10 different things, and you're not going to make no money. You're not going to get to where you're trying to go, as opposed to just focusing. Pick your thing and stay with it regardless.
That is so true. I mean, sometimes you could try to do so many things that you get nothing done,
Yep.
and that's really frustrating when you're working extra hard to get nothing done. I want to first stop for a minute and say thank you to Larry Cobb for your donation to the platform. I appreciate you. Larry Cobb says, we appreciate what you do, Dr. Watkins. Much love and support from Hanover, Maryland, by way of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Thank you so much, my brother. I appreciate you very much. And anybody else who wants to support the platform, I want to say thank you in advance for your support. If you want to support or become a patron in the platform, you can go to intelligentblackpeople.com. That's intelligentblackpeople.com. And in exchange for your patronage, we do not take donations. What we do is we allow you to invest in the platform. So if you support us, we'll support you. We give you lots of free stuff, lots of gifts in exchange for your support and your patronage. So that's intelligentblackpeople.com. Also, if you want to look at some of the books and things like that we have, where you can get financial education and all that good stuff, you can go to blackfinancialintelligence.com. That's blackfinancialintelligence.com. And Danielle's platform, Danielle Pierce, who I'm speaking with today about the Wendy Williams divorce. Danielle, her platform is economicelevation.com. That's economicelevation.com. So feel free to check that out. Please hit the thumbs up button. If you haven't hit the thumbs up button, everybody hit the thumbs up button on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Please hit the thumbs up button. All right. Okay. So I want to ask you, I think one other area I want to go into, Danielle. I want to get your take on this, and I want you to just give the real deal. Like give me the sister girl response, because I know you're a real sister. She's real. She's 100% real, but she knows her stuff and she's real, which makes her absolutely perfect. How do you think? And ladies, feel free to make comments on this, because I really want to understand this and your perspective on this. How do we feel? Like, we're used to typically situations like this being the opposite, right? The man's the one sitting on a big pile of money, and it's the woman that's got to give up a lot of money. So the men complain and growl and like, oh, she wants this much money for child support, this much money for alimony, she's a gold digger, blah, blah, blah. But then you'll hear the women that'll say, well, no, she deserves it because this, and this, right? How does it feel that when the tables get turned? Like, what happens instinctually when you see a woman who's, sitting on a pile of money and has a man who says, I need you to help me maintain the lifestyle to which I've become accustomed from your income. How does that make you feel as a woman?
So let me tell you what happens. It exposes my double standard that I'm still working on. He is not through with me yet. It exposes my my bias, all my black girl magic, rah, rah, rah. It exposes all of that, because I'll be like, he's a bum. He shouldn't be getting money from her. He ain't shit. He don't deserve nothing. And I have had to check myself. Like last year, I think it was Mary J. Blige we were talking about, and Holly Berry, and now this situation here. And it's like, Danielle, you kind of bogus for this viewpoint, because you feel the exact opposite when the shoe is on the other foot. Or even like Nas and Khalees. Like, I read the story, you covered it yesterday when they were talking about how he's taking her to court for not letting him see his child. And my first thought was, well, she must have a good reason for it. I'm just like, you know what? You can't say that. Like, I can't say that she got a good reason for it. Maybe she's just being shady, right? And the same thing when it comes to women supporting men financially after a divorce, after a breakup. I'm not a fan of it, but I do realize that that's a double standard. So please, brothers, don't come at me in the comments talking shit like y'all do. I'm aware that it's a double standard. I will work on it accordingly.
Well, you know what? Here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to go in a direction that I think will make this interesting. I'm going to say that I think double standards are okay. I'm sitting there asking. I'm trying to figure out who the hell said double standards between men and women and expectations of men and women, or gender roles between men and women, were bad in the first place. I think society said that. I've always believed in gender roles. I don't care what nobody says. I do. And let me tell you, Danielle, what gave me clarity, additional clarity. This was from an instructor that I have, a teacher called God, who gave me additional clarity on what gender roles are. The other day, I was running down the path. Me and Alicia, we like to go jogging. That's my weight loss journey. So we're just trotting along this path, and I see this goose, right? And the goose, it's just a goose. I mean, what can a goose do? Goose can't hurt nobody. I saw that video. This was a goose with an attitude. He was GWA on my ass, right? He had his chest out like he was ready to fight, and he kept sticking his tongue out at me. It was real weird. He was like, and I was like, what is that? Like, why, what is, and she's like, oh, that means he's ready to fight you. He's ready to threaten you. And I'm like, well, he's a goose. I can kick a goose's ass, right? Check this out. the reason that he was giving me funny looks and he was staring me down. I mean, I moved left, he would look left. I moved right, he looked right. He wasn't looking at her. He's looking at me, like he could smell my testosterone or something. So I took another step closer, and he lifted his feathers up, like, you don't want none of this. And I'm like, why is this goose doing this? Like, what do you want, man? Like, ain't nobody don't start none, it won't be none. And you know why he was doing that? Because I looked a couple of feet over to the left, and his woman was sitting there on top of some eggs that were about to hatch.
Yeah.
And so she's just sitting there chilling. You know, she's safe, she's protected because she knows her man's holding it down.
Right.
And the goose would not, do you know this goose would not let us pass that down the path? Like, I'm Googling, I'm like, can a goose kick your ass? Like, what can a goose do to you? I was looking at YouTube and goose attacks to see what they look like. Because I'm still thinking, like, is this something I shouldn't be worried about? Or am I just gonna end up looking stupid because he's gonna poke my eye out with some sneaky little goose tricks that I don't know nothing about?
Dr. Boyce, not to cut you off. A guy was killed today by a bird. He was a breeder, and it was some type of rare bird. This was in Florida. The bird attacked him, and he's dead today. So you were doing the right thing.
You know what? It would have been terrible. Y'all would have had to deal with Nipsey Hussle and then me all the same week. That'd have been too much for the Black community. Too much. I'm playing. But R.I.P. Nipsey. That wasn't even a joke. But seriously though, and this goose was really dead serious about protecting his woman. And then I took another step. I kicked a few rocks, and then his neck got super long, like to where he was the same height as me. Like, he kept doing all these things, these threatening gestures, chest out, feathers up, neck long, hissing. He started hissing. He's like, I said, I'll be damned, man. Fuck it. I'm out. So I walked away from this goose. And you know what? Here's the thing. Here's what hit me about that whole experience. I said, did nobody, teach this goose how a man's supposed to behave? He didn't go to college and get socialized. He didn't, nobody like we always like to be like, oh, well, the masculinity, it's all toxic, and boys are taught this. Boys are taught to fight, and they're taught to play sports and taught to want to shoot guns and, no, sometimes it's just in you. Right? Sometimes God just puts it in you, and there ain't no instruction manual to come with it. You just go with the spirit of God that's inside of you, and just you do what you're supposed to do. So this goose was just doing what was wired in him by God, and it's not even a religious statement. It's a spiritual statement. It's a reality statement. And so that told me, I said, you know what? This to me is a reminder that when we live in a society that's telling us that gender roles are a figment of our imagination, that's just bullshit.
Yeah,
that's bullshit. There is a difference between a man and a woman.
There is.
So maybe I'm old fashioned. Maybe I'm a dinosaur. Maybe that's toxic masculinity talking. I don't think it is. But I actually think that a man, should be ashamed if he's running up behind a woman talking about, I need you to take care of me. Like, you are disabled. There's nothing appealing about you as a man or as a human being when you're up here literally saying that without your money, I'm gonna be on welfare.
That's what I think too.
I don't respect it. I think you, don't get me wrong. Maybe he can get some assets. Give him a house, give him a car, give him a little cash, send him on his way. But this idea, like, I'm gonna sit around and what was it? Jill Scott, when Jill Scott had that ridiculous, who was like, oh, I need your money to take care of my parents. I'm like, Negro, those are your parents. like since when did your parents become her responsibility? Yeah. So I do think a double standard is okay. But I think also at the same time, though, it does speak to the idea that male or female, if you are balling like that and you got that Wendy Williams money, you got to think about who you're locking horns with. If you're in a relationship, or Mary J. Blige went through it too. If you're in a relationship with somebody where there's a huge disparity or dimorphism, as scientists call it, between you and the other person's wealth level, just expect that when the divorce goes down, you will be taking care of that person. They will be kind of a dependent for you, and I think that's something that smart rich people kind of think about. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree. I think that I know that one of the Forbes article, I think, said that they thought that there was not a prenup. And I would hope that that's not the case, but I don't think that there's anything wrong with prenups when there's assets, to that level and billions of dollars at stake. I think you should have a prenup.
Well, what I think the one thing that I think does make Wendy Williams' divorce a little bit different is that they've been together 22 years. And so he was with her back, before the big money really started rolling in, and I think that there's a difference between those kinds of marriages versus the marriages where, somebody been with you for 2 years, and they wasn't taking no shots in the gym, but you sit there splitting money that you've been making since the 90s. Like, I'm not a fan of any of that. Like, I think prenups make sense. I think prenups are taboo. How many of you, yes or no? Yes or no? I'm gonna do a quick straw poll. How many of you think prenups are okay? How many of you think prenups are bad? Respond to the question. Everybody answer. Tell me what you think. You think prenups are good or bad for marriage? And hit the thumbs up while you answer that question. And Danielle, I'd like to get your take on that too. Like, when you think about prenups, Danielle, what are your thoughts on prenups?
Again, 15 years ago, I would have said that I would never need a prenup because I'm never getting divorced. But here I am divorced, right? Years later. And, the prenuptial agreement wasn't an issue, but for sure going forward, I absolutely would do so.
Okay, well, I'm seeing a lot of yeses. I'm seeing a lot of, I guess among the tribes of intelligent Black people. I guess if this were the space for stupid Black people, then we'd have a lot of no's. But not that you're stupid if you say no, right? So Angela says no. That doesn't mean you're stupid. Sunny says no. Okay, so I see a mix of yeses and no's over here for you guys on my Facebook page, but on the YouTube channel, Dr. Boyce TV, I see a lot of yeses.
Yeah.
Let's see here on Your Black World. What am I seeing? I see people talking about dowries. Let's see. Linda says it's called dowry. Now that's a whole nother conversation. I'm bringing Noma Langa from Africa to talk about dowries. Noma Langa, I don't know if you know Noma Langa.
I do.
Nubian Queen. Yeah, Noma Langa talks about how when she got married, her whole position is interesting. Her position is like, if you're a man and you want my attention, you better have some money. Like if you expect my father to even consider letting me marry you. She's from Botswana, so she's like, yeah, you need to have some assets. Yeah, you need to have a dowry, like all these things, like these whole, like so-called modern relationships where the man can show up with a, Burger King coupon and a bus pass. Like that just doesn't fly like in her space. And I'm almost thinking that does kind of make sense in the sense that if you think about a marriage and you go back to what you were saying before, that a marital contract is like a business. It's almost like forming an LLC or something with somebody. Why would you form a business with somebody who ain't got no assets?
Exactly. And I have 2 daughters now. So to Noma Langa's point, if I had to ask myself, do I want them to marry somebody that they love that's broke, or do I want them to marry somebody who's going to contribute to her life? Marriage should enrich you financially, spiritually, emotionally, period. And I don't know why Black women get in such, we get attacked when we start talking about being enriched financially. That's the goal. Because if I can't create 10 times more money than what I have by myself being married, then what the hell am I getting married for? What is my point to being married if we're not growing together? If my assets don't increase financially when we're married, what's the point behind that? So I totally agree with Noma Langa. Don't agree with everything she says. I know she follows that wife school lady, but a lot of what she
oh, you're talking about Elle. Yeah, she's woo.
Yeah, Elle, she said, I don't know what it was she said, but I know I just unfollowed that whole page. It was like a year ago. I was like, I cannot have this in my space. I was like, no, sir, no, ma'am. Let me hit the unfollow button. I might even block the page because it was just asinine. I was just like, nah. Nah.
Yeah, she's Elle is I think Elle, what's it, Elle Rotor, or
I forgot.
I can't remember but she has a wife school. She runs a school for women who want to be wives. And she has some pretty interesting views in terms of what a wife is supposed to do. And what I like the idea of going in the direction of joint accountability. Like we see all kinds of stuff where people talk about, Black men not being shit, and these are all things you need to do. You need to straighten up. But I personally, as a man, who was raised to try to be a good man, I personally like the idea of people encouraging both parties to really know what it means to step up and to be a good spouse. And I think if everybody's always telling you constantly that it's the other gender's fault, then they're not helping you. Like if somebody's telling you like, well, the reason a man leaves, I think there's this meme I saw going around that said a man will leave a good woman because he's not willing to do what's necessary to become the kind of man he needs to be, blah, blah, blah. So every woman is like, I'm a good woman.
Yeah, they like
I'm gonna hit the like button, right? It's like, and I'm like, no, your ass ain't a good woman. You were trash, like, and so I think that sometimes, like, I think all of us like just need to learn that. Like, I think as men, one advantage you get as a man, like I got this from my father, is I grew up with the expectation that if you want to attract the woman you want, you better step your game up. You better be on point. You better do all these things right, or she will be justified in not being interested in you anymore.
Yeah.
And I did not hear that so much on the other side. I kind of hear like a lot of if he don't like you the way you are, then he ain't worth it. And I don't think anybody just likes you just when you're just being whatever kind of person you feel like being on that day. Like I feel like just being a bastard and cussing everybody out. Well, of course you're not going to want to be around me if I decide every day I want to be an asshole, right? If I want your attention and I want you to love me, I've got to be nice to you. That should be like rule number one. So like what are like I give people like young people simple rules in relationships. Like if they're not mean to you, don't be mean to them. If she says, would you like bacon and eggs or oatmeal for breakfast? And you cuss her out, then you're the bad person. It doesn't matter if you're having a bad day or whatever. You're the abuser in that particular situation. But because you'll see relationships where one person is nice to the other one and the other one just barks back because they know they can get away with that. And my thought is, okay, keep doing that. And then when she cheat on you or he dumps you for a better woman, don't be mad, don't be crying because you might have created some of that, right? So I think just that reality talk for people is helpful, and I think that there should be more of that. So I think I would support, not that Rose wife school isn't good, but I think like a wife school and a husband school where it's like real life stuff, maybe even taking business principles and applying that to marriage could be beneficial. Like a marriage can be run like a business. For example, if you have a business partner or a customer, you treat your customer well, so that your customer will give you what you want. I don't know. So let me digress and go back to the topic at hand. So we talked on this for a little while. So we know we started with Wendy Williams, but I want you guys to know that was just kind of the jump off point. It was not to gossip about Wendy. We wish Wendy and her husband well. It's really more so about you. If you were going to give anybody else advice in terms of what they can learn, from sort of watching some of these divorces and how they go down, what are some like closing thoughts you might share with them?
I would just only one thought. The main thought that comes to mind is that who you marry and who you have children by is probably the most critical decisions that you'll ever make in your entire life. And we don't give it nearly the enough time and attention that we should. It takes 4 years to get a bachelor's degree, 5 years for a master's, 8 years for a PhD, 12 years for a high school diploma. We devote all these time to things like that. Like we see the value in doing that, but we don't see the value in spending time to learn about marriage and what it means to be a good wife, what it means to be a good husband, and what exactly is it that you bring to the table. We approach marriage and having children from a very juvenile, naive standpoint. And then once you have those children, that's really, you can't turn the clock back. And that is the most critical, like that person who you have children by, your children inherit all their good things, all their bad things, their family history, their legacy, like everything comes out in your child. And we just out here having kids haphazardly by anybody and everybody with no thought to it and wondering why we can't get to the level where, we feel like we need to be. It's the most important decision you'll ever make. And I think we should choose more wisely.
Well, I'll tell you what, Danielle, I think that, anybody in here, by the way, everybody hit the thumbs up button. Please hit the thumbs up button. I'm talking to Danielle Pierce from economicelevation.com. Please hit the thumbs up button. And some of you guys in here who are Game of Thrones fans, and those who don't watch it can probably get this point, but it's funny, like on Game of Thrones, one of the things they do is it's very old fashioned where they think of marriage as the union of empires. So who you marry ain't got nothing to do with who you love and who you are attracted to. That helps. That's like a bonus if it happens to work out in your favor. But usually the marriages on that show are like, okay, you have your family has this power, our family has that power. So we're going to have you to form a union and start having kids, because we need to do this for survival, right? Now, of course, obviously that's a little on the extreme side, but I think you can learn something from that, because if you go to some other countries, like you go to Africa, some parts of Africa, like Nomalanga will talk about that, how, marriage is seen, marriage and family are seen as a core, as a foundational aspect of your ability to obtain and to secure and to grow your wealth. That you don't, if you're inheriting $1 million, $10 million or something, your family will not allow you to bring some bum into the house who's just going to take all your money, And so I almost think that for African Americans, I think it's very important for us to understand that we cannot ever disconnect the broken family component of our community from the broken wealth component. It's not like they're totally separate. The high divorce rate, high single parent rate is directly connected. No disrespect to single parents. I'm not saying that at all. My mama was a single parent when she gave birth to me, so I'm not saying it at all. But that part of our personal relationship is directly connected to our wealth outcomes, right? So really, Black people could probably increase our wealth by trillions of dollars just by learning how to maintain our relationships. Little things I learned about marriage were like, first of all, everybody's going to have problems. Everybody's going to have disagreements. You don't avoid the disagreements. They're going to happen because you're not the same person. It's not about whether you have a disagreement or not. It's how you handle it. And also whether the person that you're dealing with plays the same game as you. So what I mean by that is, like, let's say I'm a person who's chill and I want to resolve conflict, right? Well, it's hard for me to do that if I'm dealing with somebody who escalates conflict. Where every time something goes wrong, like, I don't know, I accidentally push them and they punch me, and then I stab her, and then she pulls out a gun, then and then I pull out a bazooka. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of how you have these relationships where people will just flare it up. That's why experts at the Goffman Institute said they can predict which couples are going to stay married and which ones will get divorced by listening to how they argue with each other for 5 minutes. If you argue in the wrong way, if you do not know how to properly address your differences, then they said you're done. Because you're going to have a problem, you won't be able to solve it, etc. So little things like that I found were really important to study. And I agree with you. When you're merging your empire with another person, your empire is not just your money, but it's everything. It's your life. What's more valuable than your life and your happiness and your future? So you're merging this empire with another person's empire. So you got to ask yourself, what are they bringing into my space? Are they bringing good things? Are they bringing bad things? In fact, I wrote a book about 12 years ago called Financial Lovemaking. And I became really fascinated with how money shapes so many relationships and how it just plays out in so many interesting ways, largely because people focus on the wrong thing sometimes. Like, we're just trained to look at, like men, it's like, if she got a big butt and a smile, then she's in, or maybe ladies might be like, oh, well, he plays for the Oakland Raiders, so that makes him a good.
And he's tall. Let's not forget that. He's
there
tall.
You go. He's 6'2", he plays for the Raiders, and the sex is good, I'm in. Okay, good luck with that. With that scenario, right? And I started getting, when I started talking about the book, I started getting emails mostly from women. It was interesting. I didn't get so many emails from men, but I did talk to men about, usually for men, it would be things like child support or just divorce, the financial devastation of divorce. For the women, it was like, just sort of like where it was almost like a few occasions where they thought they'd won the prize. They thought their husband was like the catch of the century. And it turned out to be something that ruined their life. Like one lady said that she had so much money, they lived next to Bob Costas at NBC, who's like worth $100 million. And and she said she didn't know her husband had a drug addiction. And so she said one day she woke up literally and he was gone and the bank accounts were empty and she had nothing. And another lady married an athlete. And she said that when he was playing sports and it was going well, that everything was fine. And they were spending money like it was going out of style, going on vacations and all that. And then he got injured. And when he got injured, it took an emotional toll because all he was in his head was a basketball player. So like a lot of Black men, when he lost that one thing that he thought he was born to do, he became very depressed. He became an alcoholic. He was into the drugs, got into the women, wasted the money that they had left. And next thing you know, she said she's 36 years old, living at home with her mama, with her kids, and bankrupt, right? So a lot of times I think, really thinking that part through, I think is critically important. And then I actually also know a couple of people who actually literally lost their lives in their marriages, so you really kind of have to think that stuff through. And I don't know if we went too far off of the Wendy Williams thing, but that's actually a good thing because I didn't want to make it all about Wendy and Kevin. It's really about you. It's about Yvette and Trinette and Diana and Michelle, all the people that are listening. It's not about, celebrities and their marriages. Like, they're going to work their stuff out. I want you to work your stuff out. So last thing I want to ask you, Danielle, can you tell us a little bit about your platform, economicelevation.com, and what you teach over there so people can go check that out if they want to go?
I can, absolutely. So of course, again, Danielle Pierce, and I am a 12-year full-time real estate entrepreneur. So I have been out of corporate America since 2007. Do have a background in accounting. I don't know any accounting though, so please don't inbox me any CPA questions because I don't know that. I'm solely focused on real estate, and my two specialties are tax lien investing and also repairing and maintaining foreclosed properties. So for tax lien investing, I got into it a few years ago, and so far I've gotten 7 properties or so for about 5,000. And then I've helped my clients at this last sale. We got, I think it was 20 properties for 30,000, somewhere in there. So I've helped a lot of people get properties this way. So it's definitely viable. It works. And especially for our community where we are boxed out of traditional financing so often, and we don't have the W-2s, we don't have the credit score, we don't have the check stubs, we don't have the bank statements, we have nothing on paper that will allow us to qualify for a traditional loan. So tax lien investing can be, is a real solution to that. And then repair and maintaining foreclosed properties, of course, is a separate business. Get contracts to work with banks to repair and maintain their properties. And, we do pretty well with it. And so that's all I focused on. That's all I do all day, every day. And of course, my consulting and then my social media platform. So, yep, that you can find out more at economicelevation.com.
All right. All right. So you guys heard, you heard the lady and you heard what she does. Economicelevation.com is the platform. Geralda says, save this live, please. It is right here in the Facebook page. If you're on Facebook, if you're on YouTube, it'll be on the YouTube channel at drboycetv.com. Everybody, please give Danielle a digital round of applause and a thank you for joining us today in this great conversation. I learned a lot, even though I did all that yapping. I didn't mean to keep yapping. I just get going about stuff like that. And every year that goes by, I realize how important that stuff is. And I agree with you. I think who you marry is one of the most important decisions you can ever make. So everybody, please thank Danielle, and please take a trip to economicelevation.com to support. And thank you once again, Danielle. I appreciate you.
All right. No problem. See you next time, Dr. Boyce.
All right. See you soon. All right, everybody. Have a good day. See you soon. Bye-bye.